Hi, my name is Malcolm Clemens Young, and I'm the Dean of Grace Cathedral in San Francisco, California. And this is my video message for the week of October 15th. Perhaps the most famous psychologist at the end of the 19th century and the early part of the 20th century was Sigmund Freud. He's the person who introduced us to psychoanalysis, the idea that talking can actually function to heal people. And there are many other ways in which he's affected modern life and which his ideas still continue to influence us. Freud had a picture of what it meant to be human, and it was almost like a graph. So on the vertical axis was, on the top part of the vertical axis was our conscious awareness, our normal rational thought. But he believed the much bigger part of us was the unconscious, a place where conflicting drives from our childhood fought it out, and where we had desires that we weren't even aware of. On the vertical axis, Freud talked about the difference between the superego on the one hand, which was the part of us that comes from society. It's society's way of censoring us, making sure that we're good citizens, that we act in an ethical way, make sure that we conform to the expectations of the people around us. So that was the superego. And then on the other part was the id. And that's where those deep desires found their expression. The id, where unworked out sexual fantasies and issues regarding death began to surface. And so the ego was that part of us that was between the superego and the id and had to arbitrate to find a mediation between these two parts of our personality. Now, although it may be difficult for me to completely believe the idea of a superego and an id, especially because I think we're much more complicated in our desires. We desire things far more complicated than just sex and death. But I do believe that idea of an unconscious is tremendously important. The idea of implicit bias, that we experience people's race and treat them according to our unconscious is something I think is very true. And there is a deep part of us that we don't fully understand. We just see the surface, that surface level of our rational thoughts, but we are really a mystery to ourselves. There is a depth to ourselves that we never will fully understand. And at the very basic part of that depth, I believe, is the experience of God. I believe that God is nearest to us, nearer to us than we are to ourselves, that God understands us, that we can reach back into that deep part of ourselves, and we can have contact with God, that Jesus walks with us in the deepest way. And that's why it's so important to keep the Sabbath these days, to find a way to reach and to connect with God, that God that's at the heart of our very being. I pray that God continues to bless you as we go through these COVID days. I can't wait to see you in person. And I hope that you find a way to have Sabbath be a part of your life, to set aside time for God so that you can understand that part of yourself which is the most profound and which is the most basic part of your life. May God bless you and keep you. Thanks for watching.